Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, I guess. Today I want to talk a little bit about classical music. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard classical music, but sometimes you just don't know that it is classical music. So I guess the most familiar one is Beethoven's Symphony Number 5. Ta-ta-ta-ta, you've all heard it on at least Bean, Mr. Bean. The episode where he goes to buy a piano and then, he just gets the sheet and then it just plays on its own and the grandma down below is very content. My introduction to classical music was because one of my friends came to me and he's like, there's this music where the cannons go off. And I was like, what do you mean cannons go off? And he's like, cannons go off. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, do they actually light up and the cannons go off? And he was like, yeah, the cannons and the cannonball, everything, it's the whole show. I was like, I was a little skeptical. I was like, maybe that's just sound effects, maybe it's not for real. And then that was my introduction to classical music. It was 1812 Overture by Tchaikovsky. I won't be talking about 1812 Overture in this video particularly. I'll be talking about it probably in another video where I'll be making about classical music. So after getting into classical music, I guess the usual one to start with would be Waltz of Flowers, Blue Danube, John Strauss. But my introduction after the 1812 Overture was directly to Schubert, who was overshadowed by Beethoven and Mozart throughout his career, or maybe even after his career. Now, this is a piece called Death and Maiden, and it comes with an interesting story. Am I talking too fast? I'm usually very excited while I'm, talking about something that interests me. So Franz Schubert wrote Death and Maiden as a song 7 years previously to writing Death and Maiden in the entire concerto or whatever this is. Now, I'm not very familiar with classical jargon, though I know a little bit of it. I don't completely understand all of the things, right? So, Death and Maiden, what is it about? Death and Maiden was originally a poem, right? And it's about death taking this young girl's life away and the struggle between it. That is what the poem was about. And Franz Schubert made it into a song before and then made it into this classical piece that is Death and Maiden. I guess there are some interesting things that happen in Death and Maiden. There's this back and forth between the violin and the piano, and it feels like they are both fighting with each other. That's my own interpretation, by the way. And it's just one of the most brilliant pieces. And this is time and time again, I do keep coming back to Death and Maiden because it just feels like ethereal, like, it's just, you're out there. So if you want to give classical music a try after you've done your course with Waltz of Flowers and Blue Danube, I guess, if you want to get in a bit serious classical music, this is it. I love this. So usually what my experience with classical music is that it's an extension to emotions that cannot be expressed in words. So that's what classical music is. Basically, it gives you this space to interpret the music in your own way. The words do not tell you what to think, right? They don't tell you exactly what to think. So it's up to you. It's up to the listener's perspective. You can make whatever you want that music to be for you. And that's what's so great about classical music. The next one is, this is a bit of kind of obvious. This is Mozart's Anna Kleine Nacht music, right? Now, when I say Anna Kleine Nacht music, this CD comes with a lot of other ones too. But what I mean is K525. And in that, I guess the romance piece is, I've already covered it on my channel. It goes da 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 na 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 na. That piece, I love that piece. And Anna Kleine Nacht music basically, I think, translates to a little night music. Maybe I could be wrong. I don't know. So that's what this is. And this is one of those most charming and calming kind of music. You could just put it on, go to sleep, and you just have a very good night's sleep, basically. It is that kind of music. Now, I won't be, talking too much about Anna Klein and Mack music because I don't know a lot about Anna Klein and Mack music or Mozart in general. So, that's that. Now, again, a bit of serious. It is a sonata, and it is called Sonata Quasi una Fantasia or something like that. Maybe my pronunciations are wrong, but it is now modernly known as the Moonlight Sonata. Moonlight Sonata was a name given by a critique. It wasn't originally the name of the entire, the album, whatever you call album, but originally it was called Sonata Quasi una Fantasia, which means that, I guess it means that interpretation in the Fantasia or something like that, where it is like fantastical in nature. It does not conform to classical ways of things, or say there is a lot of improvisation, basically. So that's what this is. Beethoven wrote this piece because of a countess, and she was there to learn from Beethoven. Lots of composers did that. If they were good at an instrument, rich people would send their kids to these composers so they could learn from the best. So that's what happened, and turned out, I guess, someone rejected. Perhaps it wasn't the girl, the Countess Julieta. I'm not going to butcher the pronunciation of her name. So that's that. Someone said no, and Beethoven was pretty sad and mad about it. And then, he writes this piece. And now we are not exactly sure if that is why he wrote Sonata Quasi una Fantasia. But we do know it was around that time when she kind of refused to marry him, and that's when this piece came to be. Anyway, another interesting thing about Moonlight Sonata is, I think Moonlight Sonata, the name of the modern name of the Fantasia, is quite constricting. Whenever you imagine Moonlight Sonata, you are imagining the moonlight, at least the moon, and it having something to do with moon when it is not that at all. And when someone else gives something a name, and you're bound to that idea, you're pretty much yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to be thinking about. I would play Moonlight Sonata when there is moon or something like that. It kind of makes your thoughts about the piece restricted, and I absolutely hate that. When you call it Sonata Quasi una Fantasia, it is open to interpretation. Again, you could make anything out of it. Maybe you're love stricken, or maybe there is some grave despair, maybe there's a war going on, and then you could make up your own interpretation. And that's what's so beautiful about classical music. But this critique ruined it for everybody. So I suggest, when you're listening to Sonata Quasi una Fantasia, you better do not think it through Moonlight Sonata, right? That's what I suggest. Anyway, now here's a piece that I have loved and played again and again, to a point where my friends were like, Anand was like, what the hell is playing on your car? And by the way, Anand is the one who introduced me to classical music, but he kept, listening to this music in my car every time he appeared, and he was like, what the hell is this music? And I'm like, that is Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings. Now, to Tchaikovsky's Serenade of Strings came to be because of long time of boredom, of idleness, and that's what made him want to write this piece, which is kind of crazy. So there's that aspect to Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings, and it starts with this huge violin piece going off at the beginning, and it has some calm moments in it, right? So there you go. And this is one of my favorite pieces by Tchaikovsky, apart from the Nutcracker Suite. I hope you guys listen to classical music the way I am listening to it. I was into jazz, I'm into pop stuff too, but that's that. So I guess I have to end this video. See you guys in another one.